Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and it is great to have you with us this morning on Wednesday, the 10th of November, 2021, with a very interesting workshop today. I really enjoy running this workshop because we call it Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Market. So, with our other workshops, last week we ran workshops on resume writing, and we ran a workshop on cover letter writing. Next week, we're running 2 workshops, and I hope you'll join us for those on how to prepare well at interview and how to give great answers to interview questions. But today's workshop, we call it Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Market. So we're going to be focusing on some of the little things that maybe you won't hear all the time, or some of the things that are really important that you can do as a job seeker that might not be overly obvious to stand out. So we're going to go through today. We're going to give you 10 tips. So it's going to be a short, fast workshop, and hopefully you get a lot of value out of what I'm going to share with you today. Now, you might have been hearing in the media, it's very common at the moment to hear reports of the fact that unemployment is quite low. Unemployment is actually quite low, and there's a lot of employers out there who are really screaming out for staff. So if you're looking for work at the moment, and you are finding it a little bit challenging to find work, when you hear that unemployment is quite low, you naturally think, well, why can't I get a job? However, I'm here to tell you that regardless of how easy or difficult it is for organizations to find staff, regardless of how low unemployment is, the recruitment process is always competitive. It is always competitive. You still need to be the best candidate to get the job. So don't rest on the expectation that you're just going to be able to walk out and walk straight into your next job when unemployment is low. It is certainly not the case. You need to be very well prepared and ready to go out and compete competitively for finding a job. All right, let's get stuck into today. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we kick things off. If I do drop off the line for any reason, please wait till I rejoin. But feel free to ask comments, whether you're watching us on our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, or on one of our many partner sites. You can ask questions as we're going along today, and we would love you to take notes as you're watching, but you can also watch a replay. So if something with you resonates today, or you would like to hear something again, you can watch a replay of today's workshop and all of our workshops on our YouTube channel. Just a little bit about me. Who am I? Well, my name's James. I'm a director at Smart Recruitment. I've been working in recruitment since 2005. So I'm actually having my 16th year anniversary later this month, and conducted over 3,000 interviews and over 600 group assessments in that time, placing well over 1,000 people into work. And I launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, in December 2019. All righty, but enough with the introductions. Today, we're going to go through 10 job hunting tips in a competitive market. I'm going to give you 10 things to do, and I guarantee if you do each one of them, it will increase your chances of getting the job. Some of these you might have heard of before. I'm sure you haven't come across all of them, though. So even if you get one tip from the rest of our workshop, it's going to be worth your time. All righty, let's get stuck in. Number 1, find a connection and use your network. Well, what do I mean here? Well, often as a job seeker, the normal process we go through when it comes time to looking for work is we think, oh, okay, I need to now start looking for work. I've either left my last job or I've completed my study. You scratch out your resume, you jump onto the job boards, start scrolling up and down the page. You see a job that looks good, you apply for it, scroll down, oh, there's another job. Yeah, I'll apply for that one. And that's kind of how you go about it. If you're still looking for work in a couple of weeks' time, you kind of think, oh, maybe I should try some different things. But I actually think using your network from the beginning is the best way to start. Start by finding a connection and using your network. So do you know anyone that works at the organization that you're looking to apply to? So even if this organization's not currently advertising, contact your friend or the person you know who works there and say, hey, I'm currently looking for work at the moment. I would actually really love to work for your organization, and here's why. So use your network. Think about all the people you know that are currently working. Think about the companies that they work in. If you want to work for any of those organizations, use your network and actually ask. Ask your connection there, are you hiring? Or could you introduce me to the person that is doing the hiring? And if it's an organization where you don't know anybody, but they're your dream employer, there is absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out and connecting with someone, certainly via LinkedIn, and telling them why. I am really impressed with your organization. I am currently looking for work. I would love to hear if you have any vacancies. Here's what I can bring to the team. So be bold, but find a connection and use your network. That's tip number 1 for today. Tip number 2, use people's names, particularly in your cover letter. Now, if you sat through my cover letter workshop last week, I hope you enjoyed it. But one thing you will have heard loudly and clearly from me is that it is really important to use somebody's name. So in all of my advertising, I have my name on on any of my ads, and I then look at a cover letter and I see if my name's been used. If my name has not been used, I'm disappointed. That person's application has already gone down a peg. Whereas if you've used my name, your application's gone up a peg. People like their names being used, particularly on cover letters. So include in your cover letter and during the interview process the name of the people you meet, what they said, and why you were impressed. So if you've met with other people, if you're at the second round interview, mention to that person who's interviewing for the second round who you met in the first round. Mention their names. Show that you remember people. People like their names being used. People like their names being remembered. It sounds like a really small thing, but think about it yourself. When you meet with someone, you like it if they know your name. You like it if they use your name. You might not realize that you like it, but subconsciously you do. Take notes. Tip number 3. Have an achievements-based resume. So again, if you're in our resume workshop last week, the most important aspect of your resume is it needs to sell you. Your resume is a sales document. So it needs to have achievements on it. And this is a huge mistake. I see people will send me their resume and they've been in their last job for 5 years and they will list their duties and they won't list any achievements. So I know what they did in their job, but they're not telling me how well you did it. So does your resume tell me how well you have performed? Because that is what I'm most interested in as a recruiter. Most of the time, I've got a pretty good understanding of what you actually did in your job. I get hundreds of resumes every day. I've got a pretty good idea on what you've done. Your achievements tell me how well you've done it. They tell me how well you've done your job. And they also help you to stand out from the other candidates. So you must have an achievements-based resumes. Because everyone has the same qualifications or everyone has the same experience. Your achievements are what make you stand out. Let me give you an example. We will get a lot of resumes from people that work in fast food. We will get a lot of resumes from people that work specifically at McDonald's. We might get 50 resumes this week from people that work at McDonald's in customer service. However, there will be a great difference between the person that describes their achievements really well in what they did at McDonald's and the person that doesn't put any achievements on their resume at all. Now, the person who doesn't put any achievements on their resume at all might actually be the better employee and they might be the better candidate, but not if they don't put achievements on their resume. So get those achievements onto your resume. All right, tip number 4, show what you know about the company and the industry. So the industry is really important here. Now, a lot of job seekers will do the research and they will show on their resume, on their cover letter, and in their interview what they know about the company. That's the absolute minimum and you must do it. But also, you can get bonus points and it's a really good way to stand out by showing that you're passionate with your knowledge about the actual industry. So you must do more research than the other candidates. Let's be clear here. If you are not doing at least as much research as the top 5% of candidates, you're not going to get the job. You're not going to get the job. So you must think, okay, how much are the best candidates for this job researching the company, researching the role, and researching the industry? You need to go and do what they're doing, if not more. So company website, obvious. Careers pages, obvious. Press releases, less obvious. Annual report, less obvious. So if you really want to impress an interview, ask a question based on what you've read in the company's annual report. The interviewer will be very impressed. If you start off by saying, would you mind if I ask you a question? I read in the annual report that da 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 da. It kind of doesn't matter what your question actually is. The recruiter is going to be thinking, wow, this person's read our annual report. I've never read our annual report. They must be so interested in our organization. I'm really, really impressed. So it kind of doesn't matter what the question is. The point here is you need to show. The first word there, you are showing what you know, and you are showing your level of research. Industry news, industry websites, and industry groups is a great way to show your research into the industry. So not just the company. Let's look into the industry. What's with all the research? Well, I want to share a quote with you from Stefan Wheelack, a well-known recruiter in Melbourne. He highlights what I'm trying to get across to you. And I'm going to read out this post, which he put up on LinkedIn in the last 6 months. Credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next job. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet not all of them were exactly what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper, but when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only interview a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you haven't spent any time researching our company, you are missing the mark. I understand that doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it'll pay off. However, that's exactly what the other candidates do to get the job, and they're the ones that you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So if you don't want to do the research, that's your call. But you are competing with candidates, as Stefan has said here, who do a lot of research. And they're normally the ones that get the job. All right, tip 5, research the recruitment process. So what do I mean by research the recruitment process? Well, find out in advance, what tests will you be taking? If you know what online tests you're going to be asked to take, guess what? You can Google that test. You can Google, how do I perform well in this particular test? What assessments will you be asked to complete? Is it a group interview, for example? If you're going to go along, what particular activities are they going to have? How can you prepare? What questions are you going to ask? What do previous candidates have to say? Particularly if you're going for an interview with a large organization, maybe it's a bank. In particular, if you're going for a graduate job, there are lots of review sites, Glassdoor and other sites where you can actually go and read the comments of other people who have been for an interview with that organization. Find out what they have to say. It can help you to best prepare. Tip number 6, it's pretty straightforward, but practicing your interview technique is the only way it will get better. Now, I've got to say that this is probably the most basic of advice when preparing for interview, but it is the advice that is most commonly ignored. The only way you are going to improve your interview technique is to practice. So you need to find somebody that can sit across the table from you and ask you questions. If you don't have somebody that can do that, I'd encourage you to sit across the table from your phone and record the way you answer questions. But you need to sit there and practice answering questions time and time again. Because if you don't sit there and practice answering questions, your technique will not improve. So go back and watch that video of yourself. How do you sit? What's your posture like? Is your body language nice and open and warming? Are you looking the person or the camera in the eye? Is your answer confident? If it's not, go and practice. Do it 3 or 4 times. But if you don't practice your interview technique, it's not going to get any better. And most people come out of an interview going, oh, I wish I'd practiced some more. Or I don't think I did very well. But in their heart, they know that they didn't practice. So go away and practice your interview technique. It's the only way it'll get better. All right, question for you, and feel free to type this into the comments box. Who would you actually rather work with from this list here? Somebody that's likable or somebody that's unlikable? Okay, it's a silly question. I get it. Of course, we would rather work with someone on the left here, someone who is likable. So, tip number 7 is be likable. It will increase your chances of getting the job. Now, what's also important for you to understand is that the person that you're interviewing with or meeting, when they look at you, they might be thinking, this person's going to be sitting next to me for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 48 weeks of the year, maybe for the next 3 years. Do I want to be sitting next to you? Do I want to be spending 40 hours a week with you each week for the next 3 years? So if you're unlikable, you're a bit grumpy, you're not building rapport, then you're probably not going to get the job based on likability. But being likable will increase your chances of getting the job. So if the company's choosing between 3 really good candidates and you were the one that smiled more, you were friendlier, you were easy to get along with, that could make all the difference. That could be the difference between you getting the job over somebody else. It's human nature. Tip number 8, ask great questions. So I mentioned before, you can show in your research, you can ask great questions in that part of the interview by using the research you've done. But at the end of most interviews, if not all interviews, the interviewer normally says, now, have you got any questions at all for me today? And this is the only part of the interview where you as the candidate can kind of set the tone or the agenda. So I always encourage candidates to have 3 questions. Ask 3 questions, but maybe take along 6 or 7. Because if you only prepare 3 questions and 2 of them are actually answered throughout the interview, you don't want to look silly by not having any questions or asking a question that's already been answered. So go and do your research, but asking great questions is a really great way for you to stand out. So use your research, mention the research you've done, and ask a question. Tip number 9, positive responsive communication. This one sounds a bit silly, but it is actually really quite challenging sometimes as a recruiter to communicate with job seekers. Some job seekers are really hard to reach. So first of all, answer your phone in a positive and professional manner. If you don't currently have an active voicemail, you must have an active voicemail that allows the recruiter to leave you a message. Because if I can't leave you a message, I'm not calling back. I'll move on to the next candidate. But also expect that when you're looking for work, if somebody calls you, answer the phone expecting it could be a potential employer. So show interest as well in the recruiter or the person you're meeting and the company behind what's on their careers page. Ask the person that you're meeting, tell me about your time in this company here. I've had a look at your LinkedIn profile. I can see you've been here for 5 years. Why do you enjoy working at this organization? Ask them about themselves, and that will really help to build rapport. Ask for honest feedback at the end of the interview. There's nothing wrong with it as you conclude an interview saying, look, do you have any feedback from me on how I've performed today? The interviewer will quite often give you some feedback. And it's also showing the interviewer, that you want to improve and that this means a lot to you. And finally, have a thankful attitude. Every time you have an interaction, say thank you. Thank you for calling me today. Thank you for the phone interview. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with me face to face. It is just a nice way of showing politeness, good manners, and it is remembered. It also makes a difference. So there are lots of little things here we can do in the way we treat people when we're looking for work that can actually increase our chances of getting the job. All right, tip number 10, know how to perform well during a video interview. Do you know how to perform well during a video interview? Because at the moment, most recruiters are conducting interviewing via video interviewing. So we're just going to watch this little 3-minute episode. Hi job seekers, James here from The Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face
interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's 4 main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. And here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile. Talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now, so it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck.
So tip number 10 there, super important, video interviewing. You need to follow those instructions on that video and understand. It's kind of not an excuse anymore for job seekers to not know how to perform well at video interview. Now, I've got a bonus tip today. We have a bonus tip, and it's a really important one. And this bonus tip is missing out isn't the end of the world. So if you are going for a job that you really like, missing out isn't the end of the world. And a lot of candidates feel like it is the end of the world, particularly if it's a company or a job you're really keen on. You might have gone through a long recruitment process, 4 or 5 steps, and in your own mind, you're starting to imagine working there. And so when you get close, but you don't land the job, it can be a blow. It can be a blow. But it's really important for you to realize that, there's plenty of other fish in the sea, so to speak, and that moving on and then focusing on the next opportunities is the right thing to do. Alrighty, a reminder on our upcoming workshops. So next week is our most popular week of workshops normally. We've got interview preparation part 1. We talk about how to research before an interview, what research you need to do, and how to actually stand out in the interview room. This is one of our most popular workshops. So we are running this on Tuesday next week at 11 a.m. And then on Wednesday, we're running a workshop around giving great answers to interview questions. So wherever you're watching this workshop today, be back here on Tuesday and Wednesday next week at the same time at 11 a.m. and you'll be able to join me for this interactive session. If you're still wanting more assistance, a reminder of all the things that are available to you on our candidate coaching platform. We've got video coaching, resume templates, a whole list of things that you can see on your screen there. These are all available to you for free. Before you go, please take the time to complete our feedback survey. You'll see the link on your screen there. And also, we would love it if you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. Now, really important, and we always finish each of our sessions with this video, is the fact that we want you as a job seeker to understand how to look after your mental health when looking for work. So we'll conclude with this video. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you next week for our interviewing workshop.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. A lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself, because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.